Welcome to Bold Talk series where creativity, leadership, ideas, innovation come together. My name is Epi Ludvik, and today I have a privilege to have a short one-on-one conversation with Michael Dougherty, CEO and co-founder at Remix AI. Michael, great seeing you. Welcome to our Bold Talk series. How are you?
I'm doing great. Nice to meet you. Really excited about this. Thanks for having me on your talk here.
Yeah, Michael, this is really exciting because I took a look at Remix AI. I was like, wow, this is an incredible, amazing platform. Um, Tell us your journey. How do you ended up starting Remix AI, and give our audience what Remix AI does and how you can use it in marketing and so on.
Well, my journey, like many, has been sort of seeing these major technology shifts and how these huge shifts have created inflection points in both culture and business. And each shift I see, whether it was originally PC software to web and cloud, or whether it was mobile, or whether it was the read write web, i.e., social, crowdsourcing, et cetera, these all created both ways that people could use software, interact with it, but also interact with each other, and created huge opportunities for new companies to both disrupt, in some cases, or create new categories, but for some incumbents to basically take advantage. And we're right in the middle of one of probably the largest inflection point that we've seen in our lifetimes, which is AI. And you are seeing incumbents basically take full advantage of that, at least some of the big guys who are jumping in with 2 feet. And really, the capex, the adoption rates, et cetera, that Google, Meta, et cetera, are putting into it are show how serious it is for them. But in any case, these inflection points create huge opportunities for startups, and um, has always been something that I've been excited about when we come up with ideas for our next company.
Yeah. Well, you're a entrepreneur. You've grown companies from an idea to $100 million in revenues. Uh, What's something counterintuitive about scaling that you wish more founders understood early in the early days?
I mean, even myself back in the early days, this is advice that I'm going to send to myself back then.
As a
And
reminder.
that, yeah, it's a little reminder, or it's a little message from the future back to my past self. But I think I got some advice in one of our companies. It was called Jelly, and when we were starting out, from a really great angel investor, and I said, "Look, I expect you want me to show you that the dogs are eating the dog food with this notion of product market fit." And he said, "No, I want starving dogs." And I don't think I understood what that meant really until later. And it's really this notion of starving dogs. And um, it's not just that people want your product or want to try your product or even enjoy your product, it's that they need your product, or that you solve something very deeply for them. And when you find that kind of starving dog, that need that you're filling, your product can start to take off. And that platform that we were just talking about, Jelly, which when we sold it to iHeartMedia, was the largest audio ad platform for programmatic advertising. The starving dogs were the entire industry needed to tap into programmatic ad budgets, and had a significant amount of inventory that they could sell to digital buyers. And we went from nothing to 200 million in just a few years. And um, so yeah, those starving dogs. That's what I would tell myself. You don't have it until you find the starving ones.
And for someone in the early days, like you talk about product market fit, is that the one single most important thing that as an entrepreneur that you should pay a lot of attention to get that as soon as possible?
Yeah, PMF, product market fit, however you want to look at that. Does your product reach the need for a user, and can you find more of them? I think that combination of PMF and then right on the heels of that, distribution or go to market, are critical, and both are extremely hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes people call the PMF journey a kind of a journey through the forest or a drunken walk or whatever you want to call it because you're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Uh, the risk
And
is,
in, and
yeah, go
in,
ahead.
day, in today's environment with AI, do you think it's easier or it's probably harder?
That's a great question. This is such an exciting and confusing time,
Mm.
honestly. I think it because more, the cost of starting a product now has dropped to almost nothing. So that means ideas can be converted into products, at least applications, very quickly. And so the question is, you could reach something, you could maybe, and especially if you look at like you and I both have experience with crowdsourcing and large groups of people. When you have large groups of people who now can create applications, there's going to be some good ideas that come out of there and some good apps. And so, what I wonder is the are the dogs, the starving dogs, going to be fed by one, to use the metaphor, one dog food, or is it going to be testing all sorts of similar solutions? And how do you kind of rise above the fray in a world where there could be 10 other people coming up with the same idea as you at the same exact moment, moving as fast as you, being able to ship. And so, since that sort of barrier is gone, it'll be really interesting to see what ideas rise, to the top and become sustainable companies and long-term companies.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's a fascinating, exciting time. Um, everyone, anyone who's an entrepreneur should be trying to build an app from scratch, learning these new tools. Where do they fail? Where are they successful? What's magical about them, but where are the holes? And because if you don't, I think your competition is, and you need to make sure you keep that advantage and that thought as you're developing your products.
Yeah. Now with Remix AI, uh, you're reimagining what social creativity looks like in AI powered world. Uh, what was that insight or problem that sparked the idea? When did you realize you were into something big?
A few years ago, we started to see these artists who are making digital art using AI.
Mhm.
And it was fascinating to see the art they were creating. And these were highly creative artists. But I wanted to learn by doing. So I kind of started to try out some of these early image generators, for example. This is even before video generation was really something that people were trying. And it's sort of an aha moment where you started to realize everyone's going to be able to create. If someone with no artistic training can create from an idea, can create an image, digital art, digital photography, whatever you want to call it, in seconds from an idea by simply typing in that idea the right way into a model. You realize that would change everything. It's going to change culture. It's going to change fashion, music, film, um, advertising, so many different categories. So but it's also going to create a flood of content. It's going to create um, lots of new issues that we've had to grapple when new technologies like this are unleashed in the world. So we came up with Remix with this idea that that's where we're going. So there needs to be a place, there could be a place where people could share this type of imaginative content, this fictional content with each other, because we all are used to social media where we're sharing content that's created with video, content that's created with cameras, content that's created with photos, and it's generally people performing or generally people that are doing real things. And we thought, well, what happens if you flipped it on the head and say all the content in this app will be generated with your imagination? And what will that be like? Can we create a place like that? And then can we give you the tools so that you could learn how to do that yourself through the community and learn what they're doing? How do I make that? I want to try to make that. And so this idea of creating a community, this concept of creating learning about how to navigate these new tools, and then releasing these new tools as fast as they're available so that everyone could use the state of the art. That was kind of Remix, the idea behind it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, amazing journey. Michael, what's one bold decision you made recently that felt risky in a moment, but turned out to shape your direction in a meaningful way? Doesn't have to be recent, maybe sometime years ago. So
Well, pivots are always something that people talk about. And when they work, you're the victor and you can look back and look smart with your pivot. But at the time you're doing your pivot, it's a real question about, do I continue on the path that I'm on, or do I try to go a different direction, maybe to find those starving dogs, for example? Maybe I have dogs that are eating the dog food, but they're not starving. So it's a little tricky because you're like, they like the dog food. I think I've got something here, but are they really starving? And so one big decision we had to make with that company I was mentioning that went to 200 million was a pivot like that, which is we had I call it an adolescent PMF. We had pimples, had acne, we were like going through our teenager years. It was a tweener. We had some people who loved us, but we were only at the time it was a platform for radio stations, and we were only on we were on 35, and that we felt that was a lot of radio stations to work with. But after the pivot, we ended up being on 2,000 radio stations. So the point is that it was a hard decision. It was one that came from customers who kind of gave us the idea to move. We leaned into the customer feedback, and then that pivot was a lot easier once it started to scale. But you had to gulp at that moment and say, okay, we're walking away from the 35 to go after the 2,000.
yeah, very good point. Michael, where do you get your inspiration and how you keep up with the trends? I mean, today it's like so hard to keep it focused, right? You're a serial entrepreneur. You've done amazing things with with this Remix AI. Um, how are you what does that look like to you in terms of
Yeah.
focus and keeping it in the right track?
It's so noisy. It's
Mm.
so noisy right now. It's overwhelming. I
Yeah,
have a friend who basically is a startup founder, and he almost wants to turn off, the week to week, day to day noise that's occurring in AI right now. Everything's happening so fast, and that can be overwhelming. Um, Also, what's hype versus, what's meaningful, i.e., what do you focus on? And to me, the only way to do that for me is to figure it out hands on. So I'm a big fan of learn by doing, whether it's early stage before you even start the startup, or whether you're in the startup, you're building it, and you're trying to decide, do I care about this new trend? Do I care about this new model, for example, that just was released by Google? Is that going to be a model that our users will like? Well, I like to try it out myself first, because there is hype, and
yeah,
there are a lot of influencers who are basically helping launch some of these new products. And when they describe what the new product is, sometimes they do the thread, and the thread has all the different blow your mind things about the new model. But when you use it, it doesn't exactly work that way sometimes. And so it's really important, I think, to be hands on, to have a point of view, to have your own, to curate your own taste,
yeah,
and then learn by doing.
yeah, yeah. It's true. It's you know, s- sometimes we think like, oh, one size fits all, so people that just go and get it. You need to know yourself, and for you is like by doing it is the key. For some people probably is some other things, but I think
Yeah.
knowing yourself is the key. How you're going to be able to navigate through this noise. Michael, what does the word bold mean to you?
Bold means unexpected. Bold means optimistic. Bold means high energy. And bold means impact.
What was the
That's
last
what
one?
impact.
Impact. Yeah, yeah,
That's what it means to me. Someone who's bold is going to take risks. They're going to make an impact. They've got energy, and they're exciting.
Yeah. I mean, nothing great happens without that excitement, right? And you
Right.
truly need an energy. You need energy to pivot. You need energy to do great things. And I'm so glad I had this conversation with you, Mike. Always be bold. Keep up with great work. Thank you for joining me in this Bold Talk series, and look forward to seeing you soon again. Until next time, take care, be great, and be bold always.
Thanks, Epi.